Blimey, Spyro! That was quick! The pre-orders only went up 72 hours ago at time of typing this out. Indeed they did, dear viewer. And I already know what you're thinking. And no, I did not spend $600 on this. No, my friend was into it and backed the project initially. He got one of them backer dev kits and now has the full commercial version now that, it's all about pre-ordering. So you can't fault them on customer service like, oh, you sank 4 digits into our Kickstarter. Bam, you get the finished version pretty much day one. So, gold star there, Oculus team. However, A, that is because he was a high-level backer, and B, we are not here to talk about who's getting it first or the customer service. We're here to talk about the thing itself. Now, throughout this video, I'll be using some of Total Biscuit's video, not only for him to help me explain the technical side of things, due to him having what is possibly the world's most powerful and greatest gaming PC, and then comparing that to the specs of my PC and my friend's PC, due to the specs that is required to run this bloody thing, but also for footage. As I could say, look at this. Here is me playing Minecraft on the Oculus. Looks the same, right? Well, it is. It's only the thing on the PC being put into your eyes. And I don't know how TB or the higher level reviewers get this footage of the 2-screen eye thing. So, they do somehow. So here is some footage, or here will be the footage when needed. But before we go into all of that, I think first off, we know to go into the price, because that's what everybody's got their tails in a twist about, haven't they? $600 for the Rift! That's frickin' ridiculous! Oh, you frickin' Oculus fricks that said it was going to be $350 to $400! You lied to me! You killed VR! VR is dead for another 20 years like the Virtual Boy! It's all your fault, Oculus! You made me lose my marbles! Yeah, no. I get where all this anger is coming from, as Oculus said, even as late as 2 months ago, that they were looking at a ballpark price of $350 to $400. So at most, everyone was aiming at a $450 with shipping. At $600, that's not in the ballpark. That's out of the ballpark and on its way to the moon. Maybe landing in Luna's moon ballpark, but that doesn't count, Oculus team. You can't just say a ballpark of $350, then have that figure almost doubled. But why has the price doubled? Let's see if we can't figure this massive price rise out. Well, for one, the consumer version comes with a lot of needless shit that does not need to be there, which just adds to the cost. Like, because it requires a PC to run, and PCs don't tend to have real controllers, the thing ships with an Xbox One controller. Problem is, if you're buying this thing, then you're going to be an avid PC gamer anyway, due to it being a very niche item, and being an avid PC gamer, you're already going to have some controller of some kind for your PC. I myself have both a PS4 and Xbox 360 controller for PC gaming, as both of them work. And an Xbox One controller on its own is like £40, $50, so that's jacking up the price. It also comes with this little remote and a bunch of other stuff. Again, all things that are for a niche market that you could easily buy on your own accord anyway. So removing all of this would easily cut the cost down to $500, maybe even the $400 that they were asking for. Because as I said, Xbox One controller, $50 on its own. So if we knocked $50 off $600, we're already down to $550. That little remote control thing, that's probably about $30, maybe even $50, because it's like can do TV stuff, I guess. So let's just call that 50. There's another 50 off. We're already at 500. So if you got rid of all of the useless tat that it come with, you could easily knock the price down. The other thing is the screens. The Oculus needs two 4K Samsung Super screens in it, which are only made by Samsung, and Samsung themselves are also making a version of Google Cardboard or something with their new phone. So their new phone will also require this 4K screen, so it's in big demand and they can't make them fast enough, so they're hard to get hold of for now. And because of this, and, you know, you got to cover the expenses of shipping and the actual price of how much it's in demand, Oculus are going to have to pay premium if they want these screens. So that one I can understand, and as time goes on, the screen will be easier to get and the price will go down. And last on their pricing side of things is the fact that it's new, and new technology will always cost more. I myself knew that the ballpark price was going to be bollocks due to the new technology, and I was guessing closer to 450 to 500 rather than 350 to 4, but even then, I was way off, but I was thinking 500 as a standalone unit and, you know, sold separately, and then all of the other extra shit that you don't need could be sold as a bundle pack if you do need the controllers. But as it stands right now, they are not selling a standalone unit, they are only selling a bundle pack. Also, it's not $600, it's more $650, as they are having the arrogance to make you pay for shipping. I don't know about you, but when I have bought a high value item that is 400 plus, normally shipping is free, as they are getting a lot of money off of you, and considering the mad profit they are making, they are usually happy to pay the £25 shipping. And that's 400. This is almost double that, 600. And they are still asking for some mad expensive shipping. Like, $50 is around £35. That's like first class, tracking, FBI, scanned and secured, top level shit. I can send something the same size as the Oculus to America, still tracked, still first class, for £15. That's $23. So this ultimate first class tracked, FBI'd, scanned, gold plated postage seems unnecessary. And the postage could have even been free if you just did the normal class, or the normal first class tracked for about £15 or whatever. But that is a minor nitpick, because some people might be happy to pay shipping. Now, let's get into the big stuff of running the stupid thing and actually testing it out. So, first off, I'm going to let Total Biscuit talk about what's inside the thing so that I can put it against my PC, high-level gaming PC, my friend's PC, super high-level all-around PC, and Total Biscuit's PC, the best PC in the world, with me pausing TB after each of the two sections, that being the screens themselves and the spec required to run it, to compare it to our three PCs, and then also compare it to an average PC like my friend's, because obviously a lot of people will not have the ridiculous spec that me, my friend and Total Biscuit have. So Fantasy's PC will be used as our average PC for the average customer.
Expensive gaming monitor. In fact, my gaming monitor was around $700. It's a 1440p display with 144Hz capability and G-Sync. Those features jack up the price, needless to say. You can get a much, much cheaper monitor, absolutely, but you will not get that kind of functionality with it. I've paid premium for displays for quite some time, And of course, I think that it's going to be much, much more common for people to understand the idea of buying a large, expensive television. And we're talking about devices that cost thousands of dollars. And really, that seems to be socially acceptable for the most part. What you have with the Oculus is a headset that contains two fairly high-resolution displays for a combined resolution of 2160 by 1200. That's 233 million pixels. In comparison, 1080p, that being 1920 by 1080, is 207 million pixels. So the Oculus Rift is a higher resolution than your average computer monitor.
So, as he stated there, these screens are way over a 4K, and due to how you set this thing up, your screens will need to factor into this, which we will get into in the next section of the hardware requirements. For him, he's got the best 4K monitors that cost $700, which I looked up, and as TV stated, they have gone down as 4K becomes more common, them being now $500, but I digress. I myself run two 4K Pro Lite gaming monitors with V-Sync, and my tech guy has the same Pro Lites with V-Sync, but runs 3 rather than 2, as he has coding shit running on one of them. Like, one literally looks like that screen in the Matrix with all of the symbols just constantly dropping. I don't even see the code, I just see blonde, brunette, redhead. Anyway, and being your screen needs to factor in, while a 1080p could handle what it's going to need to handle, unless you have a 4K PC monitor or a very high-end 4K TV, you're not going to be able to do what this thing needs you to do. But let's move on to the spec of this thing, as this is where it all falls apart. So back over to TB for a moment.
On launch, it was never going to be a mass-market piece of technology. The recommended specs are a 970 or an equivalent, and while that's a reasonably priced graphics card, it's a reasonably priced enthusiast-level graphics card. It's not a cheap graphics card. The Steam Hardware Survey of 2015 indicated that while the 970 is the most popular DirectX 11 GPU, it still only accounts for about 5% of the users on Steam. Now, of course, that does not mean that only 5% of Steam users could use Oculus, because the 970 is just an example of a card that would work. You know, anything more powerful than that or the equivalent of that would also work. The problem is there aren't actually all that many graphics cards at the moment that are 970 equivalent or higher. I mean, we're talking about really the 780, the 780 Ti, the Titan Black, the 690, the GTX 980, the 980 Ti, the Radeon Fury, Fury Nano, the 290, the 290X, the 390X, etc. You know, these are all pretty pricey cards. It also requires at least a mid-range i5 or equivalent. Again, that's a fairly powerful CPU. Not the most powerful, but fairly powerful. And we're not talking about a CPU that's going to be able to max this stuff out. One of the most important features and requirements for the Oculus was a high frame rate. Higher, indeed, than most gamers are used to playing at. The Oculus currently supports 75 and 90 Hz modes, so you're looking at 90 frames per second. Can your computer actually manage 1080p 90 FPS in modern AAA games? If you can, congratulations, you're on the enthusiast level at that point.
So not to go over each of our specs individually, I'm going to put all of the information on screen now with the requirements of mine, my friends and TB's at the top, and Fantasies and Crimson's below. Now, we had two tests for this thing in terms of my PC and Chris's PC. As you can see, mine is just above the requirements with two 980s over the 970, an i6 over the i5, and two 4K monitors, which is what it needs. And, as you heard by TB in his video, this, while not the most expensive in terms of enthusiast stuff, and is on the low to mid end of real gaming PCs like his and Angry Joe's, is still really pricey equipment. Even with my setup, my PC was screaming at running the thing. Yes, it could do 1080p 90 FPS smoothly, but it had to be running at full output. We are talking 120% output overclocking, which is not something you want to do, as it shortens the life expectancy of any part, as it will burn out quicker. So even with my enthusiast PC, it can still only run the thing smoothly when at full 120% output. And keep in mind, the spec that Oculus said is only the minimum requirements. And I assume with the minimum requirements, sure, it'll run, but it'll run like shit. When messing with the settings, mine can smoothly and easily run the Oculus with itself running at 720p with the maximum 90 FPS. As for Chris, being that he has 2 Titans and 2 cores of i6 and an 8 core, it had no problem running it at 1080p 90 FPS. And of course, TB having 2 high-end 8 cores, the 2 Titan Blacks and a super 4K monitor, he can easily run the full amount of 4K 90 FPS. But let's go back to the main comparison, that is Fantasy's PC and Fantasy's specs, who is the next highest in terms of gaming PCs when compared to mine, and what you or most of you as general consumers will have. So, we have a 960, barely under the minimum requirement of a 970, a mid i5, that meets the requirement, and one 4K monitor, again meeting the minimum requirement. But even then, this is someone that is not an enthusiast but wanted a good-ish PC, and there is one thing wrong there. The 960. So even with a goodish PC, Fantasies would not be able to run it, or it might get the lowest 720p 70 FPS if overclocked. So as it stands right now, unless you're willing to not only sink 600 into the Rift itself, but then an extra $1,000 to $1,500 into upgrading your PC to run this thing, then I can't recommend it. It is for high-level Jim Cramer Mad Money PC gamers like Total Biscuit that have more money than sense and can easily have the technology and the money to run this thing. And again, this price of 1 to 1.5 thousand would be for an average computer that is less than Fantasies. We are talking like Dragger's PC that has a lower graphics card than required, lower cores than required, and a lower screen than required. And Christ, Crimson might have to even sink $2,000 into getting all the stuff for his PC, as his PC is old as shit and way past the point of being obsolete. But it still works for him for the most part, barring the games that need more than, you know, the base graphics card to run. But he's more of a console gamer anyway. But let's forget all that. Let's all live in Total Biscuit's world. Let's say for the moment that every single one of us has Total Biscuit's computer and can run this thing easy. How well does it actually work and stuff? As a good piece of technology doesn't mean shit if there are no games for it, or if there is some kind of technical problem that could become an issue later down the line. Well, in terms of using it, it's fantastic. The headset is nice and light and does not weigh you down. It's comfortable to wear with a nice padded head strap and earpieces. Overall, the design and functionality is pretty damn good. And as for the inside, well, when you actually look inside of it, the screens work well and meld together nicely once your eyes adjust, and the motion capture when you're moving your head around is spot on, with all the graphics in really amazing high quality, everything really amazing to look at. I've said, to me, I can hardly tell the difference between 30 FPS and 60 FPS unless I've literally gone from a 60 FPS PC game to a 30 FPS console game. but here you can really tell the difference. Like, I had not played anything for 2 days before this to make sure that I had not been exposed to any 60 FPS to see if I could tell the difference. And yes, while I can't really between 30 and 60, between 60 and 90, it's very easy to see the difference. And it looks amazing. But all this amazingness is short-lived, as it doesn't matter whether you're playing a realistic game like Skyrim or a cartoony blocky game like Minecraft. You can only play it for an hour at most, as it kills your eyes something fierce. Now, I'm a great dragon when it comes to things in video games. I'm not photosensitive in any way, so I'm fine with the flashing lights. I don't get any kind of motion sickness, so I can deal with camera bobbing and moving fast in fast-paced games. So if I'm complaining about a health-related issue in a game or a piece of hardware, then you know there is something up, as I'm unaffected, unlike most people where their motion sickness might factor in. Not that that makes you any less valid, I'm just shit at explaining comparisons between you and I. But yes, it's not natural to have two flashing coloured screens right up in your eyes. It doesn't matter whether you're a human, a dragon, a pony, or any other creature from the different fandoms around the internet. Jamming two flashing screens into your eyes, like right up inside your eyes, is just bad. Your eyes are not made to handle stuff like that. Like, when you're playing a game normally, you're away from the screen. There's natural environment around you and natural colours around you to balance out the bright glowing box. And you can always look away to get a drink or something at any point. Even if it's just going one room over to the bathroom to use the toilet, you're still moving away from the cartoon lights, and your eyes get rebalanced with all of the natural colours and things around you. Here, there is no escape. It's bright colours all the time, right up in your eyes, and you can't look away. And because of this, it kills your eyes, and they really start to hurt after around an hour, maybe even less. After the first hour, I stopped for 2 hours, and we went out to lunch, me and Chris did, and got some food, and my eyes were still hurting a bit. We came back, and I could only go for 40 minutes before having to take the Rift off again, as it was killing me so much. And we went out for 3 hours. We drove out around town, went shopping, had a walk around the park, discussing our thoughts on the thing for this review while my eyes recovered. After 3 hours, we came back, and I had my third go, and only managed another hour before I could not play anymore. That night, I was telling Midnight that my eyes were fucked and killing me, and I had a headache. Good job, Oculus Rift. Good job. I can say I would never want to touch an Oculus again, for a few reasons. A. The health risk for your eye strain. B. The sheer amount of money I would have to spend if I wanted one for myself. And C. When gaming, most gamers like to hit a 3 or 4 hour session of Minecraft or whatever, and they want to play for that long and then have 6 hours at work or going out with friends or whatever. Having to take 3 hour long breaks just to play for an extra 40 minutes is not worth the $600 asking price. And now, of course, Sony and all AAA want in with the Project Morpheus and maybe the NX if it is a VR headset. And honestly, I'm not going to try or test them. This was enough of an eye-straining experience that I could not give two shits about them or the VR devices which they bring out. So, to me, we're just going to move on to the final verdict. So, my final verdict for the Oculus Rift is a poor 2 out of 5. If you can, it's worth trying once. It is amazing to see something running in 1080p 90 FPS, and if consoles could do that, it would be fantastic. So I urge you to see if you can try it out once. And let's not forget, this is an amazing piece of technology. We have come such a long way since the Virtual Boy, giving it colour, amazing graphics, and a freaking head strap. But when it comes down to it, it's nothing more than 2016's version of motion controls. Yes, it was fun to swing the Wii stick around once in Wii Sports, but that was it. Because it was integrated into every Wii game, it became very boring very fast. And now everyone's sick of motion controls. Hence the Kinect was scrapped from the Xbox One, and no one ever talks about the PlayStation Move. That is what this type of VR is. Nothing more than an overpriced gimmick. Yes, it's fun to see 1080p 90 FPS in teeny weeny eye strain vision once, but after that it's nothing more than a gimmick, and you will wish you were just looking at a normal PC or TV screen. Its other issues, of course, being if you have one, chances are you're not going to have a PC strong enough to run it, so you're going to need to fork out even more money on upgrades. And lastly, there are no games out for it, as the games have to be programmed to work with the motion sensor thing in the headpiece. Yes, Skyrim and Minecraft were for the beta kits and E3 demos, but barring them two, and the two games they've got now that are not all that great, there is nothing else for it, and developers have to be willing to program their games for this thing, and if only a few people are buying it, then they're not going to waste their money doing that. To me, I partially agree with the crazy fan fricks that are saying VR is dead. Yes, it is, or soon will be, but, and this is a big but, yes, VR is dead, but only this type of VR. The headset thing is nothing more than an eye strain gimmick that will come and go like motion controls. However, if VR was to go in the other direction and we make something like the holodeck from Star Trek, you know, where it projects this image and you're in the game, so it's not like it requires a PC, it's its own standalone unit that is basically a big projector, and it projects the game around you, so you can run around in the game world. Yeah, I'm all for that. Or the holo stand from Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh yeah, do that. If I could put a card on a stand and have Blue Eyes standing there in front of me, that would be fucking awesome. So to me, holo technology is the way of the future and will be more interesting. But sticking flashing computer screens inside your eyes till you're blind is just a fad that will come and go once more, like the Virtual Boy did and like motion controls did. But yeah, make a dual disc in real life please, because I want to see Toon Dragon standing next to me, as that would be really damn cool.